2024 has been a tumultuous year for creators on Patreon. Between increased censorship driven by Visa and MasterCard, greater competition in the gaming space, and the changing expectations of gamers, Patreon is on its way to looking very different from previous years. Let's take a look at how that is impacting this year's top 10. As always, all links can be found for free on my Patreon. At number 10, we have Cyan Capsule and their game, My Pig Princess. This fantasy slice of life gives me real Saturday morning cartoon vibes, and the hand-drawn art feels soft and cozy like Winnie the Pooh. This is the game with the most growth this year, as it is up over 43% from 2023. And this visual novel is a fantastic starting point for someone looking to explore the furry flavor. My Pig Princess is available for PC, Mac, Linux, and Android on their Patreon and itch.io. Holding at number 9, we have Adeptus Steve and Wildlife. While this open-world adventure is down 13% from last year, it is still in the same position in the top 10. That is because it takes fewer patrons to make the top 10 in 2024 than it did in 2023. I'm not sure what that means for game developers on Patreon in the future, but it does make me a little concerned. Speaking of concerned, this year the developers of Wildlife have really focused on the open world aspect of the game, with new towns, characters, and quests, which is great. However, given the continued years-long drop in Patreon support, I am not sure how much longer players are going to be willing to wait. Wildlife is available for PC on Steam and Patreon. At number 8, we have Anthro Heat. This is another title holding its position even though it is up over 10%. In the last year, we've seen new characters, backgrounds, and the addition of the vor flavor. We still seem to be pretty far away from a completed game, but supporters seem satisfied with the pace of progress. Anthro Heat is available for PC in both VR and non-VR versions on their Patreon. At number 7, we have NLT Media and their new game, Symphony of the Serpent. While the Patreon is down almost 16% from last year, my real concern is that it is still down over 5% from the release of the new game in July. I really like the direction the Symphony of the Serpent is moving in compared to the Genesis order, and I thought the overall numbers would be up from it, not down. Hopefully we'll see a move back to positive growth as the game continues to develop. Symphony of the Serpent is available for PC and Mac on their Patreon. At number 6, we have Dr. Pancake and Being a Dick. This is the biggest drop in the list as they are down from number 3 with a 14% decline over the last year. Why? My best guess is that the current pace of one release a year is just not fast enough for many supporters of the franchise. The good news for fans is that Being a Dick Season 3 has been officially announced for GOG and Steam. The bad news is that at the current pace of development, we are looking at a January 2026 release date for Season 3. Being a Dick is available for PC, SteamOS, and Linux on Steam and GOG with a Mac and Android version on their Patreon. At number 5, we have Dot Art and Whole House. This parody management game is up over 15%, and it has the most consistent release schedule in the top 10 after NLT. I mean, you'd think that the quantity and quality of releases would matter to patrons, so why is NLT down? I'd love to hear what you think the reason is. As for Whole House, it is basically the same game, just with an increasingly greater collection of beloved characters. So no one tell Nintendo. Seriously, I am really worried about Palworld. Whole House is available for PC, Mac, Linux, and Android on their Patreon and itch.io. At number 4, we have Project Helios and Operation Lovecraft Fallen Doll. So while this game is up over 15% from last year, it is still massively down from its peak in 2021. Does this mean that this roguelike strategy game featuring squad tactics and deck building is back on track? It's hard to say. The recent VR update looks really good, even if my thumbs are way too big and they look like weapons. So why am I not showing new footage? While the demo on Steam is still currently available, to get into the Steam closed beta, you have to pay a certain amount of money on Patreon. But that closed beta does not allow me to share any footage, which is lame. The Stormgate beta had a similar rule, which was also lame. I'd love to show you how much better the game looks than the demo version, but it is what it is. Operation Lovecraft Fallen Doll is available for PC on Steam and Patreon in both VR and non-VR versions. At number 3, we have Meshed VR and Virt-A-Mate. So while this game creation tool is down one spot from last year with a 10% drop in patrons, this has more to do with the new number 2, but we'll get there in a minute. This year, Meshed VR has been really focused on the transition to Virt-A-Mate 2. And while there still has been support and updates for Virt-A-Mate, it appears that getting Virt-A-Mate 2 on Steam is a priority. Hopefully, it will go better on Steam this time around. Virt-A-Mate is available for PC on their Patreon. Speaking of number 2, we have Turbo Driver and WickedWhims. So this mod for The Sims 4 is up 5 spots from last year and over 40%. Why? It's probably because of the new partnership that was set up under WickedWhims that includes many different modders from the community. This makes installation easier and incentivizes more creators to work together, which is a huge benefit to the Sims 4 modding community. I'm also excited to see if this means that we will see greater cooperation in modding future games like Inzoi. WickedWhims is available for PC, Mac, and Linux on their Patreon, itch.io, and their website. And at number 1, we have Dark Cookie and Summertime Saga. This titan of Patreon is up over 15% from last year because they finally released new builds of the game. I mean, it is crazy that the top Patreon game in 2023 didn't release a single build, but at least now we do have new content. The biggest change is that the game now has widescreen support, and we're seeing the entire world overhauled in this ongoing tech update. Does that mean this visual novel will be done anytime soon? Of course not, but we've had more progress in the last 4 months than we've seen in the last 3 years, which is as exciting as it is insanely frustrating. Why do you have to play with our hearts like this, Dark Cookie? Summertime Saga is available for PC, Mac, Linux, and Android on their Patreon. There you have it. This year has been one of the most dynamic shifts in the top 10. Unlike the overall trends in 2022 and 2023, 2024 had clear winners and losers. Patreon is still one of the best places for a creator to showcase their games, but it is no longer the surefire path to success that it once was. I think we will continue to see creators that deliver flavors with innovation and timeliness continue to prosper, while the more commonplace developer behaviors that gamers complain about will continue to see diminishing returns. Well, at least until Patreon decides it no longer wishes to support games with adult content. And until that untimely apocalypse, no shaming, just gaming.